Hello there everyone. My name is Alex Bohaska, and if you're watching this video, then you want to know more about using Edpuzzle and YouTube for distance learning, or just in your classroom. And before I get into it, I just wanted to say a little bit about myself. So, as I mentioned, my name is Alex Bohaska, but I'm more commonly known as just Mr. B. I'm a special education teacher and dual enrollment psychology teacher at Pocomoke High School. I have a Master's of Art degree in psychology from Indiana State University and a Master's of Art degree in special education from University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I am a father of 3, as seen here with my beautiful children, and I love to have fun. Now that I'm a teacher, it's kind of my second year as a teacher, I love to engage my students, find new fun ways to do things, such as making elephant toothpaste to test the scientific method. And so I'm hoping that today I can show you different ways that you can engage your students and have fun with them through the use of Edpuzzle and YouTube. And so what this video is going to be going over is, first we're going to talk about Edpuzzle. And I'm going to let you know what it is, where you can find it, how it's used with various kind of techniques, and then tips, tricks, and things to know about it that I have learned through using it in my classroom and through getting feedback from my students. Then we're going to take a look at YouTube, and again, we're going to look at what YouTube is, where you can find it, how you can use it in your classroom, and then, again, tips, tricks, and things to know based off of what I found that works or doesn't work, and then feedback that I've gotten from my students. Then I'm going to give just a few bits of general advice, again, of things that I have learned relating to both Edpuzzle and YouTube. And then, though this will not relate to this video, there was question time, but know that you can always reach out to me on YouTube and send me a message if you do have questions. So we're going to start with Edpuzzle. And what is Edpuzzle? If you go on Edpuzzle's website, what they say is that Edpuzzle is an easy-to-use platform allowing you to engage every student one video at a time. And essentially what Edpuzzle does is it allows you to either create your own or find a video and then add your own questions to it. And the reason why videos are so important to use in classrooms, especially with distance learning, is that, here's some research for you, more than 65% of students are visual learners. A lot of students, they need to see something to get it. And then 95% or more of your students watch YouTube regularly, so they watch videos. So videos are a powerful resource, but it can be difficult to hold students accountable. And I've seen this happen in my classroom where I assign videos to watch and they don't watch it. Or they watch it, but really what's happening is they have it playing and, they're sitting on their phone. And so what Edpuzzle does is it helps to make them accountable by having questions that they have to answer while watching the videos. And so that is why Edpuzzle was created. And so where can we find Edpuzzle? The easiest place to find it is, of course, on its website, which is just edpuzzle.com. And if you go to edpuzzle.com, you can sign up with an account. And at least for teachers in Worcester County, I believe you can use your Worcester email, and it gives you access to being able to create more videos, etc. But once you sign up, it should look something like this, where it'll show you the content, so the videos that you have created. You can see, if you go to kind of the home screen, you can see other videos that other people have created and look for other videos. And then there's popular channels, so you can actually look at YouTube videos and YouTube videos that have been made into Edpuzzles also on the website. So it'll look something like that. Another place, in a sense, that you can find Edpuzzle is on Schoology. So if you use Schoology in your schools, you should be able to see on the left-hand side when you go into your classes a little icon for Edpuzzle. And if you click on it, it'll look something like this, where again it shows the class that you're in. It'll show any Edpuzzles that you currently have assigned to that class, and then it gives you some information such as if there's any ungraded ones that need to be graded, when you created the Edpuzzle, and then how many of your students have finished the Edpuzzle. And so that's essentially where you find it. Now, how is it used? When we look at Edpuzzle itself and how they describe it, and I'm going to very quickly move myself. They say, we unlock the power of videos through simple editing tools and dazzling student data. The process is simple. Find a video, add questions, and assign it to your class. Watch as they progress and hold them accountable on their learning journey. And one thing that I wanted to add to this is that in addition to finding a video, you can also create your own video. So you don't necessarily have to go find a video, add your own questions, or just find a video that already has questions. You can also create your own videos. And there are some positives and negatives to using Edpuzzle that I've discovered, again, through my experiences, through how I've used it in my classroom. So some advantages of using Edpuzzle is that it's very fast. When you assign it on Schoology, not only is the video there, but also the questions are there. In the past, I've had to have video links, and then underneath I have the questions, and I lose students, that have to, click to multiple areas. With this, it's all in one place. They take it, they're done. As mentioned earlier, visuals are very important for students. And so this provides a way of having, a more engaging visual experience. There's a vast variety of videos already out there. Again, it's linked to YouTube videos, so anything essentially on YouTube you can make into an Edpuzzle. It can also be personalized, so as I've mentioned, you can make your own video that then can really directly address your students, which I found to be very effective at keeping students engaged. And it's kind of a different variety than just Zooming the entire time. Especially for students that might not be able to make the Zoom or have poor internet connection. It also holds students accountable, as mentioned earlier. So instead of just watching a video and hoping that, they got the information, or hoping that they're paying attention, you can have questions that pop up in the video that hold them accountable, that make sure that they did get the material, that they were paying attention. It's also more engaging, because again, there's questions that pop up. When I've asked my students in the past, do you enjoy these Edpuzzles, or would you prefer the old method of watching videos and then having questions later? All of my students said that they preferred Edpuzzles, and they said, it keeps me focused because I realize that there's a question coming up. And then also there is something that you can do where you can prevent skipping, and what this means is a student can't jump ahead just to where the question is. They have to watch the entire video. And so that's very good, because oftentimes when you show students a video and you ask them to watch it, they might skip around. And then finally, it grades it automatically. So if you have multiple choice questions, and I'm going to talk a little more about the different types of questions that you can add and the different things that you can add. But if it's a multiple choice question and you say what the answer is, it'll grade it automatically for the student and go immediately into your Schoology grades. So those are all the benefits. Some cons, on the other hand, or some kind of negative things that I've realized through using it in my class, is that if you are making your own Edpuzzles, if you're recording your own videos, uploading it to Edpuzzle, then adding the questions, it can be a little bit more time-consuming than just finding one that's already made. But that being said, I have found that it's more engaging for students. It's better to directly address them. And so, there's some advantages and disadvantages. There's also limited features. I've discovered that there's no way of making it so students have multiple attempts on the Edpuzzle. So oftentimes when I do assignments, sometimes I'll say, you have 3 tries at it. You can't really do that with Edpuzzle automatically. You can make it so you can unsubmit it and they can redo it, but there's no kind of automatic feature for that yet, or at least at the time that I've made this video. You also have to assign the Edpuzzles to each class on Schoology individually. Oftentimes as a teacher, because I teach 2 dual enrollment psychology classes this semester, I'll often make one of the classes, I'll put all of the assignments, and then I'll just copy everything over. If you try to copy an Edpuzzle over, it will not work for that second class. They'll just get an error. So you have to go in and manually add it and assign it every single time. And so that's a bit of a downside. And then sometimes finding a specific video on Edpuzzle can be a little tricky. You can't just find a link from YouTube and then paste it in Edpuzzle. You have to search for it, and sometimes it's a little tricky to find that video if you already have one in mind. And so those are just kind of some things about how it's used, some positives and negatives to it, and now I'm going to kind of show you how it looks. And so if we go into Edpuzzle, as I've mentioned, and let me move myself again so I'm out of the way, it looks a little bit like this. So obviously I already have videos that I have made, and this is how it looks on the website itself. So if you're just looking for videos that are already made, the easiest thing is to go to YouTube, though you can also go to Khan Academy, National Geographic, you can look up TED Talks. I often use it through YouTube. And let's say that I want to find a video on psychology. You type in psychology, you find various videos. Here's one that's a crash course, the introduction to psychology. And this is just the video itself, but if you scroll down, you can see that 1,894 different versions with questions have already been made. And so sometimes what teachers will do is they'll find one. So here's one that has 23 questions. And I should say, what these icons mean, this is saying how many questions have been added. This is if there's any audio notes. And those are what those icons mean. And then obviously how long the video is. So what you can do is you can go to one that's already made. You can go in and see what those questions are. And then you can just use it. Or assign it by hitting the assign button. Another thing, though, that I will recommend, and I'll talk about it in more detail on another slide, is to make your own questions, because oftentimes, again, you want to kind of personalize it for your students, and the easiest way to do that is to copy the video. And so if you hit copy over in the bottom right, what that will do is it will take that video and it'll move it into your content. So if I just hit copy, it'll say Edpuzzle copied your content. And then if you go into assign, you can then say, you know, how you want to assign it. Or if I go, I'm going to go back. There we go. And if I go into my content, you'll see that it's been copied. And so what you can do here is you can edit it. And so when we get to this screen, you can also get to the same screen if you've uploaded your own video. So to quickly do that, I'm going to quickly go back to Edpuzzle. I'm going to go to my content. And if you're doing your own Edpuzzle, all you have to do is add content. And again, you can create a video right here in Edpuzzle. Or if you've already recorded one, you upload, you look for it, it'll download it. And that will take you to the same screen that I'm showing that looks like this. So let's say that either I made this video, I found this video, copied it to it. When you go to edit, this shows all of the different editing tools that you have. The first one is cutting it. So let's say that, you know, this video, it's way too long, or, you know, some of the material that it talks about, I've already covered in class. They don't need to watch the entire video. You can move it.
The little cogs of your...
There we go. Sorry about that. You can move it to anywhere that you want and cut it. And so, yeah, let's say that I want to start with the structures. I move it to there. That's now where that video is going to start. So that's one of the options that you can do. You can also add a voiceover. But know that voiceovers is now blocked when it comes to YouTube videos. So this is more an option when you're using your own videos. What this does is it allows you to talk over a video. So let's say that I'm just, you know, showing how to solve a math problem. And so I'm just writing it. I can then add audio to it and say, okay, and then you want to carry the one, and you know, stuff like that. The majority of the time, though, what's used with the Edpuzzles is the questions. So let's say, again, you know, we're learning about the structures, you know, learning about structuralism, which is a part of psychology, and let's say that I want to add a question right here. I can add a multiple choice question simply by just clicking on it. What is structuralism? I can write in my different options. Type of psychology. Type of sandwich. Stuff like that. And then you just mark what the correct answer would be. Now, if there's multiple answers that are correct, you would just click however many of them. But keep in mind that there is no partial credit. And so if, let's just say that structuralism is both a type of psychology and a type of sandwich, if a student only selected one, they won't get any credit. They have to select all of them. And then all you would do is hit save at the bottom, and boom, there's a new question. And what it would look like to students is when they're watching it, it pops up like this. They would then select which answer, and then it continues with the video. And so another form of question, so I'm just going to continue, yada, yada, is an open-ended question. And so this would be, let's say, you know, what do you already know about structuralism? And the way that this kind of question would look, if I go ahead and save it, is it would pop up and then a student would be prompted to write in or type their response. And so this is more if you want a more, again, open-ended question. I often will add an open-ended question at the end of a video, just asking students, you know, how do you feel about this? You know, do you understand the material? Are there any other questions, comments, concerns that you have? Things like that. But keep in mind, as I said earlier, that with open-ended questions, it doesn't grade it automatically, because you can't say, you know, what a correct answer is versus an incorrect. So you will have to grade that one manually. But I'll show where that is very shortly. So you can also then change the title of the video up here and then save it. And once you are happy, there we go, you would then hit finish. And then you have your new version. And I'm going to be deleting this video after this example, but I just wanted to show. So now I have this new video. I've added some questions. You know, I've used some questions that somebody else made. I'm happy with it. Now I go to Schoology. And so this is my Schoology page. And let's say that, you know, this is a video that I want to add into, you know, this week. So week 6. What you will do, and let's say I want to add this for Friday. You just go to where it says Add Materials. And as you can see, Edpuzzle is already right there. So if you go to Edpuzzle, what it will do is it will pop up all the videos that you have made that is in your content from Edpuzzle. And as you can see, the one that I just made or edited is right there. And in order to upload it, because oftentimes people say, you know, well, where's the save button? Where's the adding? You just have to hit the watch button. You don't have to watch the entire thing. But if you want to kind of preview it, you know, make sure that you're happy with it, you can see it, and then you hit assign. This is where it gives the option to prevent skipping. So again, if you don't want them to be allowed to kind of jump around in the video, and the default for it is to have it on, you keep that on. And then you assign. And what will happen is it will add it to Schoology. Now this is another important thing that it took me a couple tries to realize. Automatically, it won't grade it. And so what you need to do is you just go to the settings, you edit it, and you will see that what will pop up is it says enable grading. So right now what will happen is they will click on it, it won't work for students. And this is another downside of the Edpuzzle, but it's kind of one of those things that once you know it, it becomes second nature. But you just say enable grading. You put how many points you want to have it out of. I try my best to keep it an even number, like if there were 4 questions, make it out of 4 points or 40 points. But even if it's not an equal number, if you just want it out of 50 points, it'll give a percentage. So it's out of 4 points. You can then assign the due date. You can say what category it's in, have it as classroom, and then you save it. And there you go. Now when students go into it, it'll look somewhat like this. They won't see the student names, and then you can play the video. And so that is essentially how it looks both on Edpuzzle itself and then how you would assign it in class. And from a student's point of view, again, they would just click on it in Schoology, they'd watch the video, and as it gets to the point where the questions are, a question will quickly pop up. If a student happened, to not being paying attention, or, the question pops up and they're like, I have no idea, there is an option for a student to go back and rewatch it. In fact, a little button will appear that will let them kind of replay like the last few seconds or so, or the last, I think it's like 30 seconds. They can watch stuff previously and then go up to where they were. They just can't skip ahead. So that's another good feature to kind of let students know that if they don't know the answer and they're confused, they can go back. And so that's just kind of a very brief way of showing what it looks like for Edpuzzle. So then I have some tips, tricks, and things to know for Edpuzzle. The first one is something I already mentioned. You have to add it to each class individually. So what you just saw me doing, going to add material, Edpuzzle, you have to do that for every class. If you just take the Edpuzzle and you say copy, and you copy it to a course, it won't work. The student will just get an error message. So again, it's one of the downsides to using Edpuzzle. It might be something that will be fixed in the future, but as of the recording of this video, it doesn't work that way. Also, the way that I like to explain it to teachers is use the website to create the video, to add the questions, to do all of that, and then use Schoology just to monitor it and grade it. And I will quickly go back to the website. A lot of times what teachers will do is they'll go into the Edpuzzle and, they'll say, well, how do I assign the class? Like, how do I assign the assignment? I can't see how to assign it. Again, it's through the page where you want the assignment to be. All that really the Edpuzzle does on Schoology is let you know, if there's any assignments that need to be graded. And so if a student had just completed it, what will happen if it's multiple choice, it grades it automatically. And what's nice is you can go in. Obviously, no one has done this one, so let me actually do an example of one that has been done. You can go in and you can see what the questions are, which was correct, which was wrong, and then you can see how many of your students got it right. Now, if a student hasn't answered it yet, they're still kind of counted. So obviously, the way that things are going right now, the majority of my students are back to being in person, and so they no longer need to do the Edpuzzle. The Edpuzzle I use for virtual students that can't make the Zoom. And so it looks like the majority of my students didn't do it, but of the virtual students I have, of which is 4 right now, those 4 completed the assignment, and they got all of it right. I'm very proud of them. And so this just lets you know, and then if there's ever a fill-in, an open-ended one, you can then go in, and again, you can see how they answered it. So what you use Edpuzzle for on Schoology is more just for monitoring it, seeing if there's any open-ended questions that need to be graded. There we go. And just seeing how they're doing. How many are they getting right? How many are they getting wrong? And what I always recommend is check it occasionally. See if a student has submitted one late, because you won't really get a notification for that. Again, another bit of a downside. So just if you quickly go into the Edpuzzle on Schoology, if there are any that need to be graded, it'll tell you right there. And I usually try to do that once or twice a week. Another thing that I've discovered just through working with my students is that if you are going to use Edpuzzles, keep the videos short. If you are in like elementary school, middle school, I recommend no longer than 9 minutes, if not shorter. Like that's the maximum. And then if high school, maybe 15 minutes. Again, maybe closer to no more than 9 minutes if it's, 9th graders, 10th graders. 11th, 12th graders, again, I have dual enrollment students, and so sometimes I'll have some 15-minute ones. But I've found that a lot of times after 9 minutes, they don't click on it. They're like, that's too much, I don't want to do it. Or if they see it and, they come in and they see, just how long the video is, they click away. They don't finish it. Another thing that I've discovered is to have a question about every minute. And I found that what I did in the past is I would have, a long video, like even if it was 9 minutes long, and then I just put all the questions at the end of the video. Students wouldn't click on it. They'd go in, they'd see that they'd have to watch something for 9 minutes before they even get a question, and I would lose them. And so now what I do is I tend to have a question about every minute. What's also nice about this is in the titles that I make, I'll say how long the video is, and because I have a question every minute, my students know automatically, 1, how long it's going to take, and 2, how many points it's worth. Because if it's a 9-minute video, that means there's going to be 9 questions, and that means it's going to be worth 9 points. So they know right off the bat. And so the longer videos that take more time, they're also going to get more points for. Whereas the shorter videos, it won't take as much time, but they also won't get as many points. And I found, at least in my classroom, that seems to be what helps to engage them the most. And so I recommend it. If you choose to use other individuals' videos, so as I showed, you can go on Edpuzzle, you can look up YouTube videos, and then questions that other people have already used. If you're doing that, what I recommend is watch through the video, look at the questions, and edit it as needed. Add your own questions, again, to personalize it, because this helps to engage the student. It makes them feel like that video was made for them. I've also found that sometimes the questions that are added might not necessarily relate very well to the video, but it was something that was discussed in the other teacher's class, and so it can confuse students sometimes. And then personalize it. Again, if you make your own videos or just adding the questions, make it personal to the class. So you can even say, like as discussed on Tuesday, what is blank? And so it helps, again, to make the student feel like it was made for them. It makes it feel like, when they're virtually learning, the teacher is right there speaking to them when you have those personalized questions, or, when you make your own video and you're addressing the students directly. And then the final thing, if you have videos, like if you did a lecture in class or you've recorded your Zooms, instead of using Edpuzzle, what I recommend is use YouTube. And so, we're going to go right into YouTube. So what is YouTube? Ooh, and I realize that I need to update this PowerPoint slide, so I apologize for that. What YouTube is a video sharing service where users can create their own profile, upload videos, watch, like, and comment on other videos. And what YouTube itself says about itself is enjoy the videos and music you love, upload original content, and share it with friends, family, and the world of YouTube. So it's just a way of being able to upload videos in a well-known platform that, depending on your settings, anyone can have access to. That's YouTube. Chances are you have heard of it, especially if you're watching this video, because this video is on YouTube. But where can you find YouTube? Again, if you're watching this video, it means that you have found it. It's on youtube.com. And if you go to youtube.com and you have your own channel like I do, it will look something like this, where it shows the videos that you have. But if you just go to the main website, it'll just show you, either kind of random videos, or if you've been on YouTube before, it'll show you, content that relates to the stuff that you seem to enjoy. But that's where it is. How is it used? Again, and I'm going to quickly move myself yet again. Like Edpuzzle, you can find pre-made videos. So you can just search anything, and chances are there's a video about it. You kind of saw us search through YouTube on Edpuzzle. But for the sake of this class and for the sake of this video, I'm not focusing on that. So you can use it, you can find pre-made videos. What I want to teach is kind of how you can use it to create your own videos or to upload videos that you've already made through like recording your Zooms, stuff like that. So how it's used is you go to youtube.com, you sign up with an email address, you create an account, you give it a name. I made mine Mr. B Psychology, and then you start uploading videos, which I'll be showing very shortly. And again, just like with Edpuzzles, there are advantages and disadvantages to using YouTube. Some advantages is, again, it's very fast and easy. You just look up a video, you find it, or you just upload a video, and there you go. It's there. I have found with students that sometimes Schoology is hard to pull up on their phones. So if a student, doesn't have access to their iPad currently, or, something happened to it, the battery died, whatever, or if their internet is not very good, I have found that YouTube videos play a lot better. They work a lot faster. And so for some of my students that just can't seem to get Edpuzzle to work, I'll upload all of my videos on YouTube instead, and they'll watch the YouTube videos. So it works sometimes when Schoology doesn't for some students. It's also very well known, so it would surprise me very much if, especially in like middle school and high school, students don't know what YouTube is. Pretty much everyone knows what it is. Just like Edpuzzle, again, there's a vast variety of videos, and so it gives different kinds of content, different visuals, and so when I've talked with my students in the past, I've found that, my students like to see variety. They don't just want to see my face in every single video every single day. And so it's a good way of kind of showing different videos, different content, different examples. It also keeps all your videos in one place. So especially if you'll be teaching the same class, in a later semester or a different year, it's a nice way to have it all organized in one area that you will always have access to. Again, you can personalize it if you're creating your own videos, which is more what I'm talking about here. And you can make it somewhat interactive, which I'll be showing in just a little bit. And there's also, there's a spelling error, lots of features. So you don't lose the features. There's lots of features that can help to make it somewhat interactive and more accessible to students. Some cons, on the other hand, some negative sides to it. It's harder to hold students accountable. So again, you can't add questions to it, and so you don't really know if your student is watching the full video or if they're skipping past. You can't make it so they have to watch it all the way through. So there's less accountability. I've also found that if ever any of the YouTube videos have any sort of content restrictions, and again, this is more, when I'm teaching dual enrollment psychology, and some of the psychology videos go into more mature topics, if it has any sort of content restrictions, it will not work on the iPad, and they'll just get an error message. So that's something I've run into in the past, and so, that can sometimes be annoying. But most videos usually, and especially if you're using them in school, they don't have those content restrictions, but I thought I would let you know. And so let's take a look. And so, as shown last time, if you go to the YouTube video, again, this is if you already have a channel, it will look like this. It'll show the videos that you have. If you have any, playlists, things like that. And so, again, signing up is very easy. You just hit where it'll say sign up, you put in your email address, you make a YouTube name, you're good. But if you are making your own content, and you already have your own video, all you need to do is this little icon up in the upper right. You click on it to create, and either, again, if you go live, then like anyone that's subscribed to you can watch you right now, live. Usually this isn't used for school. Usually you're uploading a video. And then similar to Edpuzzle, you just upload it, you're going to scan your video, and what that's going to do is it uploads it to YouTube, and then once it's fully uploaded, you can do all sorts of fun features, which I'm going to be talking about very shortly. But then the Schoology side of it, essentially what you will do, and I'm going to go back into my class. Let's say that I want to attach a video. I'll just show how. Let's say that it's going to be in this week. It's going to be on Friday. All you would do is you would go to Add Material, and then Add a File or External Tool. And then you would just you'd hit Link, and you just copy and paste the link from YouTube. And that will give a link that then takes them to YouTube, or there's a way to make it so it opens up in YouTube. Or sorry, it opens up in Schoology, though right now that feature is dodgy. It tends to not work, so I usually recommend that it automatically takes them to YouTube, which is this feature right here. You just turn it off. And so that's how you upload, that's how you would create. But there are tons of features which I am about to get into. Oops. There we go. So, tips, tricks, things to know. The first thing, as I mentioned, it goes into kind of all of the features. I recommend that you use these. Some of these are really new, like this idea of chapters, but there are playlists, which essentially you can take any videos either of your own or other individuals' videos and add them all to one area. And so this is very useful if, you're going over a chapter and you want to have all the different information relating to it in one place, so you don't have to be searching for it all over the place. It's very useful. You have chapters, which I'll be showing, again, all of these features very shortly, which is a way of kind of splitting up your video. So if a student kind of already knows the introduction and they just want to get to an assignment, or, if you have a really long Zoom meeting that goes over different content and a student just missed the second half, it's a way to immediately go to that area so they don't have to be scanning the entire video to find it. There's also something known as cards. This is when you can insert a link into your video. So you could say, and check out this video right here, and it'll pop up. And then you have end screens, where this is where you can add things at the very end of your video, again, that will allow students to click on it and it takes them somewhere else. And these are kind of features that help to make it more interactive, because I found that when the videos are more interactive, it keeps the student more engaged, and it's a more fun experience for everyone. Another advice that I give, and I will be going over the features very, very shortly, but another thing which I'll be showing you how to do, keep the videos unlisted. So you can have it public, which means that anyone can see it. If they search up and they find it, they can see your video. Unlisted, what that means is anyone that has a link to it can see it. But if, someone is searching for it, they don't see it. If they go to your channel and they look at your videos, they still don't see it. It has to be a direct link that you give someone. It's the only way that they can see it. And so this is what I tend to do with my classes. And it tends to be the videos that I will then link in Schoology, because then it means that the only way you can access it is through that link, which is only on Schoology for my students. And that helps also with confidentiality in case, I'm discussing something to my students that, doesn't relate to the general public. And then the other type of video is a private video, and this is one that is only available to you. No one else can see it. And this is, if you're still testing out some things and you don't want anyone to have access to it. So I'm going to show these features, and then I'm going to go back into the rest of the tips and tricks. And the way that I'm going to show this is with some videos that I've already made in a playlist that I made. So this is your YouTube studio. Once you have your own channel and you have your own videos, you can then see everything that you've made. This is where it takes you after you've uploaded a video. And so if you make playlists like I have, to make one, you just go over to the right where it says New Playlist, you title it, you save it, and then I'll show you how you then add things to your playlist. But one playlist that I've made is all about sleep. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be editing the first video. And so actually, let me go in. That's the finished one. Oh, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. So sleep study. We're going to go into this one. And this is how you edit the playlist itself. I apologize. There we go. So, editing this one. If you have a video that you've made, you want to add it to a playlist. If you go down here, it says playlist. It says add your video to one or more playlists. Obviously, this is in my sleep study playlist that I made. And so I would just select it for sleep study, and then you're done. Other features that I have talked about. And I hope that I go in order. If I don't, I apologize. The first one was playlists. Second one is this very new thing known as chapters. And so I've already added some in. And so if I show you what it looks like, if I just go into the video itself, what happens is it shows these areas that, like, if I want to start the video, I click it, it starts me at the beginning. Let's say I've already seen this, I just want to go to where it's giving me the instructions. You click on it, and it immediately takes you to that part of the video. And then, I already know the instructions, I just want to know who the first patient is for the sleep study. You click on it, it immediately takes you there. Another thing that's nice about this feature is if you hover your mouse over it, you'll see that it says that this area is all about the start, this one is all about the instructions, and then this one talks about the first patient. So any title that you give then also shows up in each section. How you do this in YouTube is, and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of these to show how it's done, you just put the timestamp. So a lot of times when you're editing it, you just watch the video, and I know from watching it that at 30 seconds is when I start going over the instructions. So it's not even a minute in, it's 30 seconds, and this is when I talk about the instructions. And that's all you need to do. So when you're editing the video, you watch through it, you find where the next content starts, you put in the timestamp. Obviously this is a very short video, but let's say if right at the end at 1 minute something comes in, you would write it like that. If you have like over an hour, again, it'd be the same way. Let's say it was an hour and a half in, it'd be 1 hour, 30 minutes, 20 seconds, who knows. That's how you would write it for it to then be over an hour. Though I don't recommend having videos over an hour for your students, unless you absolutely have to, again, if it's like a giant review. And so that's it for chapters. The other things is, and again, I'm going a little out of order, but this is where you would do the visibility. Since this is the beginning of the sleep study, I have made it public so anyone can try it out. I also wanted to make it available for you all so you guys can try it out. But this is where you would change the settings. So again, private, only for you to see. Unlisted, only people with links can see. And then public, anyone can see. Then you have the end screen, and so this is when things show up at the end. And again, this is a video, and as you can see, and I forget exactly when it pops up. Oh, it's probably, yeah, right around patient. And so if I play it, you'll see that a video pops up, taking me to the first patient for the sleep study. I click on it, it immediately takes me to the video. That is known as an end screen. And essentially all you need to do is you're adding an element. Let's say that I want to take myself to another video. And then you would say, like, it's not going to be that. You choose a specific video. You find what video you want to take it to. So let's say that I want to take them to a music video I made. You can also move where you want it to be. And then you can modify when you want it to appear. So let's say I only want it towards the very, very end. And as you can see, you play it. It hasn't popped up yet. Eventually, when it gets there, it then pops up. And so that is doing an end screen. And then the very last thing is a card. It works very similarly. Again, this is if you want to paste a link like in the middle of your video. End screens are only for the end. Cards are anywhere in your video. And so I already have one where I'm mentioning that, if you didn't watch the video about sleep disorders, watch that first before you watch this one. You just go to where in your video you want it to go. So let's say that, later on, when this pops up, I want them to see a video. Just add a card, add a video. Again, let's just say it's this. You title it. You add some text. Which you don't have to for these, but I like to. And essentially what this means is, as you can see, now it says watch this now. So that's the teaser text. And then if you click this little information button, it'll put, so for this one, the custom message that I put. And what happens when someone is watching the video. So this is, oops, I'm on the sleep study now. If I can find where it popped up. Go. This again, they can just click on it. It'll show them, what I'm talking about. You can click on it and it takes you right there. And so that is cards and how cards work. And then the only other thing is, again, make sure that, even if it is, because of how iPads work, and because I'm a high school teacher, I don't know if it's exactly the same for elementary school. But a lot of times if you say that it is made for kids, it adds restrictions to it, which may sometimes not work on some iPads. But even if it isn't made for kids, just make sure, obviously, because this is a public school, you're probably not making videos that have content for viewers over 18, but know that if you ever say yes, it will not work on iPads. So that's just a little bit about all of the fun options that you can add to YouTube videos to make them more interactive. And so going back. And what I usually recommend for YouTube is use it for more informative work. So, like, if a student couldn't make it to the Zoom, you've recorded your Zoom, you put it on YouTube. Again, make sure that any student faces, things like that, names are put out. And then you can add the different chapters. So again, if a student understands, and I'll use reading as an example, maybe you're going over what the text is about first, then you have some questions you can have in your chapters, like, the first minute and a half is just overview. And then, the next minute, from 1.5 to 3.5 minutes is instructions. And so then if a student missed, part of class, they had to go to the bathroom, they had to go to guidance, they had to take a test, they can immediately skip to where they need to in the video. And so usually I don't use YouTube for assigning work, unless it's more interactive. So again, you saw the example of the sleep study that I did, and the way that I did that is that students would navigate through different sleep studies that showed different videos of different patients, and then on Schoology, they would then have to say which patient had which sleep disorder. So it's a way of making it more interactive, a little different than just an Edpuzzle. But usually the way that I use YouTube is to put the bigger videos. Again, anything beyond 9 minutes or anything beyond 15 minutes that, if you added a ton of questions, it would just be too much. And, I found that most students won't watch it if it's after a certain amount. And then, as I've already shown, make it interactive if you can. Add, like, just those little things that, add a little bit of change to the screen can make a big difference for students. And so, we're almost done. I know this is a long video, but just some general advice that I have found from my experiences. The first one, give them a try. If it sounds interesting to you, if it sounds like Edpuzzles or, making YouTube videos might be fun for you, give it a go. If you're kind of unsure, still give it a try. See what happens. Understand that, if you don't understand everything that I went over, that's fine. This isn't meant to, like, show you every single thing that can be done. A lot of it is just experimentation. See what works, what doesn't work. And if something doesn't work, if you're trying to assign something, you forget that the Edpuzzle you have to assign individually and your students can't get in the first time, just breathe. Know that a lot of these tools are new to us all. They're new to the students. We're all learning it. And just, again, try again, see what works, reach out for help, all of that. If you've experimented, if you've tried and you hate this, it isn't fun, you're frustrated, don't use it. Because a lot of times if it's something you don't feel comfortable with and if you're frustrated with it, students pick up on that. And speaking of students, get feedback from them. The whole way that I have designed my class is based upon the feedback I've gotten from my students. I've asked them, do you prefer the YouTube videos and questions, or do you prefer the Edpuzzles? Do you like that I have a question each minute, or would you prefer less questions? I ask them what they want, and I design it within reason, and I design it around what they enjoy. And I have found that when I do that, I get far more engagement, far more students complete the activities. Another thing that I like to do to get feedback is, again, at the very end of the videos, I usually add an open-ended question that just gets their feedback, that just asks them how they're doing sometimes. Like, how do you feel? Like, an exam is coming up. How are you feeling about it? And that can, again, help students to feel like the video was made for them. It can feel more engaging when they aren't here in person. And then the very last thing is to reach out. So if you want to give this a try and you like it, you think it's fun, but you're struggling, you have questions, you're not quite sure why something isn't working or how to do something, reach out to me. You can email me, you can message me. On Schoology, or sorry, on YouTube, you can send me a message here as well. Another thing, and it's how I've learned to do a lot of things, watch videos on it. Like, even on YouTube, if you don't know how YouTube works, just type it into YouTube, or as I've also mentioned, type it into Google, like, how do you add chapters into a video? I can almost guarantee something will come up, and it will show you step by step, in more detail, how to do it. But I've also put, again, my YouTube channel. It's called Mr. B Psychology. If you just search for that in YouTube, you'll find my channel. You'll find this video, which I guess you found if you're watching this, and it'll also help to show it. But essentially, that is it. I know that this is a long video, so I would never make this into an Edpuzzle. As you probably have seen, this video has chapters, so if you look at the bottom, like if you want to go back and see something, you'll see, you can skip to different parts of it. It has all of the different examples that I've talked about. Hopefully this was informative. Hopefully it was fun. If you have any questions, reach out to me, and have fun out there making some Edpuzzles and YouTube videos.